Welcome back once again to your number one source for information, education, and inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in business today. You should get a license, the podcast. And we have one of the superstars, I'm gonna say one of the superstars of insurance education, social media, really financial education, because this is a brother who has found a way to not only make complex information very simple, but also make it very entertaining as well. I enjoy the content, and even more so, I enjoy what he is doing and impacting his community, with his family, with his business. I want to welcome the founder of the Chosen Agency out of Houston, Texas, Mr. Chris Blake Cobb. How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing lovely, blessed, and highly favored. And to be honest with you, I'm super excited to be here. It's been like a month or two that we've been working on it. So hopefully I'm prepared. Hopefully I can give you guys some game and give you some information that's going to bless somebody.
No, this is going to be an exciting conversation. And look, we got a whole like 45 minutes to an hour to talk. And you usually are giving a lot of nuggets in a second. Like, here's John. So I want to really just start with this. We cover a lot of different market segments. As you know, there's a lot of different paths in this industry. Can you tell our listeners just what is your area of focus now in your business, and what is your area look like on a day-to-day basis right now?
Absolutely. So for you guys who are just now meeting me for the first time, Chris Cobb, I am a life insurance and annuity, I hate to say expert, but I guess you could say that is what I do. And we started the brokerage, me and my wife, about 5 years ago. And what's funny is we started out of fun just because we liked the industry. We saw the huge opportunity, and what was like a side hustle type thing became a main hustle, became a career, became a passion, actually. And so over the last 5 years, it's been an evolution because you know how it is. You get a license. Now you have a license. Like, what do I do with it? Like, of course I can make money, but like, how do I make money? How do I tell people about what the products we have? And so I would say for the first year and a half, honestly, it was just a learning process, learning curve. And I had never been in sales. I had never done marketing, never done any of that type of stuff. So it was a reality check, because when you're in entrepreneurship, a lot of times the thing that you do, the business that you do, is not what you spend a lot of your time doing. So you spend more time marketing and creating presentations and training and teaching. And so for me, it was a huge learning curve because I had never had that level of leadership and trying to figure things out. And over the last 3 years, though, my wife and I, we kind of transformed into what is more of a brokerage, where we are obviously still in the business. So day to day, I am still meeting with 3, 4, 5 people every single day, talking about life insurance and annuities. I always tell people, I don't know, one of these days I won't do it, but I genuinely enjoy doing it. So it's going to be a long time before I stop doing it, because I genuinely like sharing the information and seeing the light bulb go off for many people. So I'm still in the field personally, meeting with quite a few people every single day, every single week. But outside of that, most of my time, I would say 60, 70, 80% of my time is also delegating for my agents and the brokers, because right now we're building our own company. So we're facilitating, we're putting the training platform together. My wife is sick when it comes to systems and marketing. So she's always doing CRM and email type work. So 20%, I would say 30% maybe delegating, building the system, making sure the platform is cool, making sure it's attractive, making sure it's easy for our agents to come in and plug in and learn about insurance and how to market it. But the other 60, 70%, I'm still in the field. I'm still taking calls. I'm still running quotes and writing applications and doing that type of stuff, which is funny because most agents, they want to get out of it as soon as possible. For me, I want to stay for quite some time. Like I genuinely enjoy teaching what we do.
Hey, listen, I mean, you can't run the brokerage without production.
You can't. And I've proven to myself, not that I'm like trying to pat my stats, but I've proven that I learned how to produce. So until someone takes my throne, takes the crown, I'm going to keep doing it because it's always better. But I'm looking for that person. Somebody's going to come in and break all of our records, and I'm excited to see who's going to be next. But until then, I'm going to keep padding the stats, and I'm going to set the bar as high as I can. So
Of
I'm gonna
course.
make them reach for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, look, I want to touch on something real quick because you mentioned that in your agency you guys focus on life and annuities, and congratulations on everything that you guys are building as well, from a distribution standpoint, because that's an important part of the business to continue to scale it. You said annuities. You said annuities. Now, here's the thing about annuities. The conversations around life insurance, and even when people think about getting licensed, they're typically thinking about life insurance, or they might be thinking about health insurance, or they might be thinking about, home and auto.
Yeah.
Maybe commercial lines they might be thinking about, but just overarching as far as like just mass information that's out there. But annuities, that's something that you don't hear about, not only from a consumer perspective, but also you don't hear agents in mass talking about annuities. But that's a very powerful tool. I would love for you to just kind of expound a little bit about what annuities are, what they can do for someone, and part two, what could they do for an agent?
So, first part is, so anybody who wants to know more about annuities, a lot of books to read. But the book that got me interested in it was a book by Tony Robbins. Ironically, he's not a financial professional, but he wrote a book called Money Master the Game, like 2016, 2017. It's like 700-800 pages.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a Bible. And when I was reading it at the time, I literally had no clue what I was reading. But it was very interesting because he talked about concepts mainly, because he's not a financial guy,
right,
and he understands his readers are probably not either. So he was just talking about concepts, and he brought up index annuities, which was something I was completely unfamiliar with. And he was saying that an annuity is a way that you can grow your money at the rate of the market. But not only can you do that, you don't have to risk a loss. So I don't know about you. I come from a small town. When it comes to finance, no one talks about it. Everything they say is half right, mostly wrong. But I was always taught, if you want to win big, you got to risk it all. Right? You got to put it all on black or something like that. And he was saying that, no, most of these wealthy people, when they talk about investing and saving, the reason they have so much peace and calm is because they know the avenues where you can get 10, 12, 15% with no risk. So all an annuity is a specific type of IRA. It's with an insurance company. So typically, if you're in fixed accounts, you're with banks. If you're in variable type stuff, you usually with like stockbrokers. Annuities are with insurance companies, and the advantage is, one, is safe, so you never lose money. Market goes down, you're protected, so it's always there. Most people don't realize that FDIC, and the I in FDIC is insurance. So when your money is safe in a bank, it's because it's insured. So the annuities provide that, the same safety where you never lose. But what he got me was the gains, because you can get a portion of the market. And because you take none of the downside, you don't take all of the upside. And some annuities, it just depends. But on average, a lot of these accounts are doing 10, 12, 15% over the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
So he said you can get the same returns without taking losses. And this was the kicker. He said that you can actually turn this thing into a pension. So when you get to a point and you have this nest egg, now you can start drawing income from it for the rest of your life. And if you know anybody who's talking about retirement, their biggest fear is that one day they're not going to have enough money. They're going to, and I'm not knocking anybody. My grandmother used to be a greeter at Walmart. And I always tell people, she didn't do it because she wanted to.
Yeah.
She needed to supplement. She needed to pay the electricity bill.
That's right.
And that's what happens a lot of times, because people run out of money with their traditional retirements. He's saying this is a way that you can kind of predict where you're going to be and what you can have and what you can count on. So it's a great supplement. The best analogy I've ever heard, somebody was like, it's like going to blackjack, and when you win, you keep your earnings, and every time you lose, you don't lose anything. Like they allow you to play again, you get to keep your chips. So I was like, well, why wouldn't I play that game? Well, the reason most people don't play it is because they don't even know it exists. That's the catch. That's the catch. Like
that's the catch.
You can go to Vegas, no risk of loss, and you keep your winnings. You'd be like, well, I would live in Vegas.
Once you learn about it, once you hear about it, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it sounds too good to be true. And I know this what somebody's probably watching this and thinking. And obviously, there's advantages and disadvantages to everything. So most annuities, it's a retirement product. You can't touch it until you're like 60. Like I said, you may get portions of the gains, not all of it. And there's different restrictions here and there. But overall, it's way more positive than negatives, and it's just ignorance. You know, people don't know what they don't know, so they don't look into it. When I saw that, I was like, okay, Tony Robbins has been around for 50 years. He's helped a lot of people. And one thing I know about him, he's not a finance guy, but he does deep research on topics. And I saw that, and I started reading more, like from him, Buffett, a lot of these other guys co-signing. It's like, okay, this thing has been around for a while.
How this is being used.
Good product. Yeah, absolutely. It's not, the crazy thing is, it's not new. Like annuities,
it's not new.
It's a two or 3,000 year term. Like it's not new. It's just that if you're in the wrong circles, I mean, some of us, we have been impressed in time, so we just didn't get the information.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do, so we can pass it down. So you can say, you can never say I didn't know. Like if you watch this now, you can forever say I didn't know about it. Whether you do research or do the information, that's on you. But you do know those tools out there, and they're not specifically just for wealthy people. Because that's the next question I get: how much do I gotta have? Do I gotta have $1 million in assets, 200 million? No, you don't. Most annuity companies, $10,000.
Yeah,
that's it. So yeah, but that's one of the reasons why we don't hear, because going back to the agent part, you get paid pretty good off annuities.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Most of the guys who are positioned to sell it or offer it or know it, they're chasing people who have millions in assets, because they know just one sale with that could be six figures.
One a month.
One a month.
One a month.
One a month. Hey. If you help somebody roll over $100,000, you're talking what, 7,000-8,000 in just one transaction.
One transaction. Now imagine if it's $1 million.
Times 10.
Right.
Now you're making $1 million a year, just rolling over $1 million a month.
So I'm saying all that to say, here, let me just say this right here. If you're listening to this and you're in Houston, Texas, what state you licensed in, Chris?
40, 41, 42.
He's licensed in 40 something. If you are listening to this and you are working somewhere, and if you have a 401k, 403b, 457, TSP, maybe you 59 and a half if you're still working, you can take it out then. Or if you're getting ready to retire, you need to reach out so he can. Now, if you're in Virginia, call me. But any other state, call Chris.
Absolutely. Yeah, but
any other state, call Chris.
It's just one of those things that people really don't know about. And to be honest with you, I didn't until I got in the industry. I read that book probably 2 or 3 years before I got licensed, and I was intrigued by it. Then I got licensed, and I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about. Listen. And now that I've been in the industry 5 years, the last 2 years, I'm really starting to see it and understand it. And I'm starting to see the case studies of people who've been doing this for 10 or 20 years. So like for me, when I'm new, I'm like, I'm still 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm meeting people who've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they're like showing me their annuities from years ago. And I'm seeing how I perform. It's like, oh, this is real. Like, this has been around. This is something you can trust. Honestly, you can trust this more than most of the financial products that are out there.
Yeah. And no underwriting.
No underwriting.
Right.
And this is for agents. No chargeback.
No chargeback.
There's no chargeback. Once it's done, I mean, I'll say, to be honest, the surrender fee is on the client. So if they decide to surrender it, they're paying the chargeback, not us.
This is a real. This is important. This is why this platform exists. It's for you to know that this is something that you can do. So while everybody is chasing IULs, which are great, but everybody's talking about IULs, you need to be paying attention to these annuities out here, because there's a lot of people retiring and they don't know where these funds are going to go. And what's going to happen is they're going to take it from the account that they got in their job, and they're going to roll it over to another stock market based account of some kind and be doing the same thing, not knowing that they can never run out of money, not knowing that they can avoid the market risk. Look, I'm going to listen. Thank you, Chris.
If you don't mind, I'm pulling some up on my phone real quick. I'm gonna give you a quick stat that because I was teaching some of my team about this recently, and they're like, "Oh, this is hard to find. It doesn't exist." And this is what I told them. This was on Forbes. So between now and 2045, 76 million baby boomers will be retiring.
That's it.
And the estimate is $84 trillion in funds that's going to be moving. So you got 11,000 people. If you divide it by the days, 11,000 baby boomers are retiring every day. So you got 11,000 like prospects.
All the time. Like people
all the time.
Boom, coming out. You better get to the
It's
federal
just a different lens.
locations and
It's just a different lens. You're looking for IULs, keep looking for them, but also keep your eyes open for this because it's out there. And
Listen,
if you took $84 trillion and divided by almost 900,000 licensed agents, we all could have $95 million in assets managing.
I'm gonna tell you that person that's getting ready to retire. If they got that diabetes, if they got that sugar, they got, they might be a little bit short for the weight, I mean, it might have some things going on. It might not qualify for that IUL. But that money that's sitting there, am I right, Chris?
You are 100% right.
The money it's just sitting there. And they're like, what do I do with this?
And for any agent that's want to get better at it, it's just fear. I'm telling you.
Because it's fear.
2 years ago, I was the same way. And one of the guys I was working with, he was like, how did you feel when you started selling insurance? And I started describing it. He said, that sounds like how you feel about annuities. He's like, bro, just dive into it, start talking to people, and it'll become second nature. And you'll start finding money.
Application's easier.
And application's easier.
So anyway, all right, I'm gonna come. We'll get off of that. But no, man. I just wanted you to touch on that because I know that's something that you focus on, and I thought it was important to mention from a consumer standpoint and from the agent benefit as well. Here's what I want to do. I want to go back, all the way back before your career started. I want to go all the way back to is it Hartwell, Georgia?
Hartwell, you got it.
Hartwell, Georgia. How close is that to Atlanta?
It's like 2 hours, hour and a half. It's not too far.
Hour and a half. Okay. I want to go all the way back, Hartwell, Georgia, 9 years old, 10 years old. I'm sure you weren't dreaming, I'm going to grow up and become a life and annuities broker. What were you dreaming about at 9 and 10 years old? What was Chris Cobb thinking about doing when he grew up?
Never crossed my mind. So Hartwell is a tiny town, guys. 2020 census, 4,000 people. So that's pretty up to date, pretty accurate. So, there, my whole family's in education. And for those who are in the education, they work in some type of plant or public service. So you just grow up seeing that. And obviously, I'm a big sports fan. So I'm thinking my ticket may be out with sports, but I'm 5'8". I knew basketball was out the cards. I was okay in football, but I wouldn't get scholarships. So pretty early on, I was like, you know what? That might not work out either. So I got to figure something out. But I will say this. I've always been the kid who has always been intrigued with finance and money. And I'm not saying like I'm a natural born entrepreneur. I wouldn't say that, but I have always had that kind of gene a little bit because I was a kid that was buying snacks and selling them at school. That I was that kid. I was selling job breaks. It is what it is. Yeah. My mom used to call me Donald Trump since I was like 4, 5, 6 years old. She was like, you're going to be a shrewd operator. So there's something about me that always wanted to work in finance, but I just never knew because in Hartwell, you don't have many insurance brokers. You don't have stock brokers. You don't really have accountants, CPAs and stuff like that. So I never exactly knew what it was going to be, but I figured I'd run a business and I always wanted to be surrounded around money, retirement, that type of stuff. And I just kind of let my curiosity lead me. Because a lot of times people always like, I need to know, figure it out. And I talk to a lot of kids and they're so upset when they're 15 and they don't have the life plan. It's like, I got my license when I was 27 and I stumbled in insurance. Like it wasn't a plan. I did not go to school on career day wanting to be an insurance agent. Like I probably had a Michael Vick jersey or something like that. Like that's, I'm like everybody else. Like that's what my dream was. But I mean, my dad did tell me this my freshman year in college. He asked me, what do you want to do? I don't know. And I was a business major. I did not want to do business. Mm-hmm. Like everybody else, they say, choose what you love. So I chose like sports management. I just like sports. I like business. So I thought it was a perfect match. And I was thinking maybe I'll be like an agent. Again, I wasn't going to go pro, but I was like, I could be an agent or something like that. And my dad said, hey, look into insurance. They're just always around. Huh. Most of the big companies never go out of business. And he said, there's always jobs. It's a good career.
And
my dad said that to me.
What made him say that?
I have no clue. He was never in insurance.
Right.
It's always out there. So I still went through business. I didn't major in risk management, but I started taking more classes in risk management because I was curious. I got an intern at UGA. It was a couple of weeks. It wasn't nothing crazy. But then I got my first job out of college at Enterprise, and I was, shaking hands because I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. But there's a lot of business travelers, and a lot of guys that would come through for business travel were insurance guys, and I would get all these business cards. And one day, a guy just said, "Hey, man, we always got openings. We're always hiring. You're sharp." And he's like, "Man, if I were you, I would look into getting insurance." And that was 2014, and I was like 24 years old. And I applied for Travelers, and I didn't know what I was applying for, trying to be like an underwriter. I didn't know what underwriting was. I didn't have any of the qualifications. I did have a college degree. That was it. I think I even called them farmers on the interview. That's how bad I was. I said farmers. But I applied it, and for whatever reason, they accepted me. They took me. I don't know what they saw, but that was my entry to the industry. Like, literally had no clue what I was getting into.
That's really interesting because, and we kind of touched on this a little bit before we actually, started the recording, but you started on the property and casualty side of the house, particularly on the underwriting side of the house. And you said, "Hey, I came in not really knowing anything." What was that like for you, and what was that experience, kind of learning and navigating? Because we have talked to some underwriters too, but what was that like, and what ultimately drove you to say, you know what, or moved you, or inspired you, or sparked you, or exposed you to say, hey, let me see what else is on the other side.
So it's an interesting story. So working at Enterprise, I was only there like 7-8 months. I wasn't there that long, but it was so fast paced. And it was fun for 6 months. And that was in my early 20s, no kids, no wife, anything. So like I was making okay money. I was making like 14, 15 bucks an hour. I was 40 some $1,000. So I was like
early 20s, no kids.
And I live with my uncle. My uncle
had you was balling.
Yeah. My uncle had like a $500,000 house, $600,000, and it was just us two. So like literally, I didn't need much money. I wanted experience, and I just wanted to do something. But after about 7-8 months, going in at 7 every day, leaving at 6, that's standard. Some days it's 7 to 8, 7 to 9. It's customer service, it's retail, it's all the holidays. I got burned out very quickly. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm like a privileged child and I should have stuck it out, but I was just like, this is not what I want to do. And so I went from that to underwriting. Part of the reason why I chose underwriting and I didn't choose like forward sales was because they say, hey, it's a desk job. You can work Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30. You get all the holidays, paid time off, this and that. And at the time, I thought that's what I wanted because I was trying to go like completely opposite of what I had. And so I was in underwriting for about 2 years, which is back end work. You're looking at spreadsheets and all that stuff. And it was cool. Like it gave me time to catch my breath and start to learn more about myself. But about 2 years in, I was like, I get it. Most people coming out of college, this is what they want. I was like, I'm a people person. I like being in the field. I like helping. This was cool for this season, but I need something else.
Yeah.
And so I was doing underwriting for 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And that's when I got my life insurance license, because even my manager at Travelers was like, I can tell you're bored. I can tell you're not engaged. He was like, you need to get a hobby. Like, work is okay, but you need to find something within the business that excites you or get another challenge so you can be excited. And so that's when I got my life insurance license just part-time, because I was just looking to be back in the field, like to be forward-facing, dealing with people. And after a couple months, a year or so of doing that, I started realizing, the cubicle life for me, it just wasn't for me. It was everything I could have asked for coming out of college. At that time, I was making like $60-some thousand. Again, no kids, no wife, still with my uncle. So like, I was saving a lot of money. I was living pretty good, but I don't know. Like I said, as a kid, I always had that challenge, that risk that I want to take. And I just said, this is not going to cut it for me. Like, I know 20 years down the road that I'll regret the decision to just stay here, because I feel like I wouldn't have put my best foot forward for what I wanted to do. And at that time, I'm not saying I knew I wanted to do life insurance. I just wanted I wanted my impact to be hands-on with people. Again, not saying that anybody in the underwriting position is not having impact. It's just, it wasn't the way I wanted to do it. And I can honestly say I don't think God. I think the skills and some of the things he gave me, I wasn't best suited for that at all. No,
Absolutely.
it
So you
wasn't.
got your life license while you were still an underwriter?
Yeah. So
Interesting.
needless to say, it wasn't. I went to HR with Travelers. They weren't co-signing the decision, but because they're not big in the life insurance space,
Guys.
especially
Okay, so they were like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. Right. Okay,
yeah,
got
yeah, they were kind of like, hey, I would prefer you not do that, but it's not a space that we're competing in, and especially the clientele I was going with because when I started doing underwriting a couple years in, I started working with like banks and credit unions too, so it was more like corporate stuff. So it wasn't like personal lines at all. So it literally wasn't a blurred line in no way, shape, or form.
Right, got you.
So if they had it their way, then I would have never done it. But I did get it clear, guys. So if you're thinking about doing it, get it clear.
Right.
I want you to risk your job. And again, I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife too. So if it didn't work out, then something happened. Like I was okay. I could accept that.
He's not telling you to do it. He's not saying you can do it. You got to get the experience on your own.
Yeah. And for me, I was willing to risk it because I didn't have at that time. I felt like
he said, "No, my brother, you have got to get your own." Only certain people gonna get that reference. Only certain people listening gonna get that reference.
Yes, but like I said, for me, it really wasn't a risk because sometimes people ask me like, how do I make the decisions, especially the big decisions? And I guess being in insurance, I'm always weighing risk. One was I knew 100% for certain that if I kept doing what I was doing, I wasn't going to be happy.
Yeah,
that was 100% chance that was going to happen. Or if I decided to branch out and do my own thing, I don't know what's the success ratio in insurance, maybe 10%. It was like there's a 10% chance you can live your life and 100% that you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
For me, some people, they still will stay with 100% because they have what they need as far as money and all that stuff. For me, it's like, I'm going to take the 10% chance. And I got a decent resume. I've never, I didn't get arrested. I didn't do anything crazy. So in my mind, it's like, I can always go get another job if I need to.
Yeah. It's interesting because I mean, underwriter, it's a sound career, right? Some underwriters out there making really, really good money.
Yeah.
Put you on the track to kind of move up that corporate ladder and really, do some things. How did it come about? Like, what was the conversation you had? What was introduced to you? Like, what was the catalyst for you to go and get that life insurance license? And at what point did you say, you know what, I'm gonna just roll with this full time?
So what happened was I got prospected by a bunch of people being in Atlanta, especially at Enterprise. So a lot of insurance agents hire people from, because they know we know how to hustle. Pretty much, I'm sure the requirements are the same, but when I was at Enterprise, you had to have a college degree. Usually it's a business major. A lot of times it's athletes, so people who like, no sacrifice. So I have been prospected by several people throughout Atlanta. Primerica's headquartered there. WFG has big headquarters there too. So there's a lot of
big IMOs are there.
Yeah. So like you in Atlanta, like you go run into a lot of prospects, but too, you run into some players in the industry.
Yeah.
And they presented it to you. In the beginning, I was just so young and I was just so excited to be making $40,000, $50,000 that I wasn't listening, but I always knew I was going to take somebody up on that offer. And it just wasn't, the time wasn't right. Like, I'm in my 20s, so I'm making my little money and I got my weekends also. Now I'm going back to Athens and going to, see the dogs play or whatever I'm doing. And around 2018-ish I just got bored and I said, you know what? I need a challenge. I need to find something. And that's when I was on YouTube. And one of the guys I used to work with, one of my mentors at my former company, he used to talk about insurance all the time. He said that's how he created his wealth. And I was a fan of his channel. I studied his entrepreneurship content. And he would just always say, hey, we're looking for good people. We're looking for more people. We're looking for this. And I was like, man, this is a guy I look up to. I would always tell myself, man, if I could get mentored by him or have a conversation with him, that would be like a dream come true. And it just clicked one day. It was like, bro, he's saying we're hiring, we're looking for people, get licensed. Won't you reach out to the company and see what the process is? So how most people in insurance, they get prospected, someone invites them to something. I call home office. I was like, hey, I've been watching videos. Right. Yeah, it's like, hey, y'all looking for somebody in Atlanta? And it was like, yeah, we'll get you connected. So I just reached out just by, curiosity, got invited. I was already in insurance. Insurance made sense to me. I liked the industry. And they told me the process of getting licensed. for anybody who may be on the fence of getting licensed, it's a couple $100, $200-300, almost every state. So in my mind, it was just like, if you run the business, if you're good at it, or if you hate it, it's not something that you really enjoy. It's only a couple $100 to get the license and the information
about. You're talking about pre-licensing. You're talking about pre-licensing, the exam,
state fees, fingerprint,
like all of that, right?
A to Z, guys. Like that's it. And this is a guy who graduated with over $70,000 in student loans. So I was like, I spent that for a degree I don't use. I can find another $300 or $400 to get my license. And so that was the process. And that was it. It was just not like a commitment. It was just one of those things that it was so good that I felt dumb saying no. And I was at a time where I had matured a little bit. I had experienced. And it's very fortunate because I was in the insurance industry. So all my family, all my friends, they knew me as like the business guy too. So like how my mom used to call me Donald Trump, like everybody in the family always said that if somebody was to start a business, it's gonna be this guy. There's somebody to like teach finance, it's probably gonna be him. And so they would always ask me questions about whole life and IULs and that type of stuff. And because I'm interested in it, I would do the research, come up with all these packages and things, and I would send them information and then I'd send them to somebody else. And I just got to a point where it was like, bro, that's money that you know for a fact you could be making. Just get the license. And whether you really run a legit business, you know in your circle, you'll always have people who trust you because they know how interested I am in it. And that's what happened. I just got the license, took care of a lot of people in my family and local communities. My mom works in school, so she plugged me here and there. And you get to that point where you make a pretty decent check and you start thinking like, if I'm doing this part-time, like what's holding me back from going full-time?
There you go.
I'll tell everybody, there's two, well, more than two, but my first belief check was $400, which was my first check. And you might be thinking $400, that's your belief check. That's the first time I ever made money as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, it makes a difference. Listen,
it's everything.
$80 for real.
It's
like,
everything.
Because you like, oh, I made this on my own.
On my own.
Yeah.
And what happened is I wrote the policy. We had a convention in Vegas. And so it was like a week to two later, and I checked my phone and I got the $400 check, and I'm in Vegas enjoying myself. So I was like, you mean to tell me that is how you can do this? And so in my mind, it was like, that was one client. So you mean to tell me if I do this 10 times in a month, I got 4,000? Yeah. And it was like, that's when the light bulb went off. And then after that, about a year or two into it, guys, I was not a fast starter, just in case if you want to know. I got my license, that $400 check was like 6 or 7 months into the business. So I was not fast either.
Stuck with it though. You stuck with it.
Yeah, I stuck with it because I was curious and I liked it. About a year into getting licensed, it was March, I think, or April 2019. I got my license in 2018. I made $6,000 in a month. And at my corporate job, after taxes, insurances, and all that stuff, I was making like $3,500 or so, close to $4,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, you don't do nearly as much work.
Something.
Yeah, and I'm making more, almost making double. And I was like, it could be luck, but I was like, this may be the thing I need to put more of my energy and effort into, because being at, not to knock travelers, being there every year, I get 3, 4, 5%. So,
yeah,
if you're making $50,000 a year, 5% is what, 2,500 or so.
Yeah.
So that's what's crazy is that people will work, and most people don't get 5%. Let's just say you make $100,000 a year and you get a 5% raise. That's $5,000. I'm telling you, I made $6,000 in 1 month as a rookie agent. So what people work all year to hope to get the 5%, you just get a license and you raise yourself right there.
And at some, listen, you get yourself to certain points, you start seeing that in like a day.
Absolutely. We talked about the annuities.
Right. Exactly.
Right. 1 hour, one situation. And once you get a taste of that, though, it's hard. It messes you up.
It's hard. Listen, you can't go back. It's like you can't even see the 400 now. You like, this ain't.
Yeah, you can't. And at that moment, I told myself, like, even if I don't quit my job, I was like, there's no way I'll ever let my license lapse, because I don't know another way I can do that. I can't rap, I can't sing, I can't shoot. Like, making a decent amount of money in a lump sum like that, I don't know how else I can do it. So,
you bring up such a good point, because I don't think. Listen, I think we work in an industry where sometimes it's taboo to talk about what you can earn. unless you're like in the recruiting space, right? But like in public settings, people don't necessarily associate, insurance professionals with multimillionaires. But it's interesting because financial services is the highest paid industry in this country.
Yeah.
And this is why, like what you're saying is why, because you can have that one conversation and help someone and make what more people make in a month in one conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to sidetrack real quick. So for the agent on the call who feels guilty about making money, because I've been there before. When I made the 6,000, the next month I made like 1,000 because I wasn't used to it. And it's not like I felt guilty as if I did something bad, but I was like, man, that's a lot of money for just helping people.
Help somebody.
Yeah, but for the person who's struggling with this, because one day somebody asked me that. They're like, don't you feel guilty for making that type of money? And this is my story. I was like, well, one reason why I love life insurance too is because I had a grandmother who passed away 2012, and she left over 6 figures to my parents, or all of her kids. And so my parents, educators, middle class, I'm not saying we struggle, guys, like we didn't have food and stuff like that, but when it came to money, we were always behind. And they always had dad student loans and just could never catch up. So in the instance, they go from that to getting 6 figures. So they pay off all their bills. My parents bought 2 or 3 rental properties that same year. So this is in 2012. I was out the house. I have never lived in the house that my parents own. I don't know what it's like. So now they're homeowners. And I always joke because I smile a lot, but that's the year I got braces too.
Right.
Life insurance bought the smile, bought me confidence. And I don't know what the agent made from my grandmother's policy. Let's say they made $2,000. You mean to tell me they didn't provide at least $2,000 worth of services? I can tell you otherwise, because that check that my grandmother paid out was $400,000 or $500,000. So you make $2,000 or $3,000 and you put $4 or $5 million back in somebody's community. We might need a campaign to the insurance companies. Maybe they need to give us a bigger commission.
Right, exactly. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more, because and you're right. That is such a great point. Like what you're bringing back, what you're adding is far more worth than what you get. It's like this. Listen, who actually gets the better side of that deal? The agent who got the $2,000, or the family who gets 6 or 7 figures for that benefit. Now, obviously, you can't replace the person, but the fact that legacy is going to continue to help that family perpetuate and grow their wealth over generations, that's life changing.
Absolutely,
that's generation changing.
It is, and sometimes people I get it all the time on the internet. Oh, life insurance is not generational wealth. It takes tens of millions. I agree, but wealth is really built with education. People need to understand that, because I've seen a lot of wealthy families like the Vanderbilts who had hundreds of billions, and they go bankrupt. So it's about how do I get money, how do I keep it, and how do I transfer it? And what she did, it was something that transformed my family's life. Again, I'm not saying we're wealthy, we're in a much better position. And look, 10 years later, I'm in the industry telling that story. One of the ladies in my team, an agent of my team, she's on track to make like 40, 50 grand part-time this year. She's a paralegal. She has a lot of stuff, but she does this part-time. She went to Africa this year and she donated a scholarship. The scholarship was called the Sarah J. Mayfield Scholarship, which is my grandmother's name. So like she made a decision probably 20, 30, maybe 40 years ago. And now it still lives today because I'm in the industry. Not only that, we're helping build schools and send kids to college in Africa just because of something she put into me and I'm putting it in somebody else and we're sharing the information. Wow. That's the wealth. It ain't the money. Again, has my parents ran through the $100,000? Yes. I'm not saying like they burned it. What I'm saying is the money gone? Yes, but the information that we've received is going to live for a long time.
The legacy.
That's going to live for a while. And that's what this is about. That's what this is about. Now you take that and run with it. Do with it what you want. Somebody's going to actually build something beautiful from it. Somebody's going to squander it. I don't know. But that's better than money.
Yeah. But shoot, they had it to squander, even if they did,
I'd like to squander it.
Right. Even if they did, somebody thought enough of them to set that up. And the reality is, look, the carrier, it's not like you're getting, like the person is paying you. The carrier is really awarding you for bringing that, kind of creating that contract. So it's the same as in any business deal.
Correct. And what you start to realize is that, so for everybody who's either struggling or trying to figure this thing out, because most of us, when you go to school, you're taught to be an employee. So like college is basically getting a degree. One of my high school teacher told me this. He said it doesn't really teach you skills, but what it does, it shows people that you can learn. So people hire people from college, it's not because they're very skillful and they know all this about leadership. They just know if I teach you something, you got a good chance at grasping it and picking it up.
Yeah.
So we get taught that we should be employees. You put in X amount of effort, you get this back. You put in $20 an hour. So I work 10 hours and get $200. When you start understanding economics, it's not about time, it's about value. If you can provide a certain level of value, people will pay you for it. And they don't care how long it takes you as long as the value is there. So if I'm working with somebody in marketing and they're telling me I can get you 20 clients and it's $5,000, I don't care if they work 40 hours a week or not. If the 20 clients are there, we cool. Because you provided the value that I needed so I can make it make sense for me. I can make the money. As an insurance agent, you're so valuable. You don't realize that you're so valuable that you don't have to spend hours upon hours to actually make a decent income doing this. So understand the value of your license and how many people need it, because right now, I think Forbes they posted something earlier this year that said 52% of people have life insurance. So that means 48% don't. One out of every two people. One out of every two. And they know that. That's why they're willing to pay you, because that's a value add to have that license. And if you can help them market and sell their products, yeah, they want to give you some change because they want you to keep doing it.
And most of those people are underinsured.
Yeah.
Or they might have it on a group term through the job that they don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of variables in these statistics. I mean, it's crazy, man. So let me ask you this, because you do such a great job. As I mentioned, there's a friend of mine, another friend of mine, Roy Douglas, who I believe introduced me to your page. Your channel, your videos, the way that you explain these concepts is incredibly dynamic and just engaging. How did that start? Like, when did you start doing that? And what was driving that? What was driving that to move?
I appreciate you saying that. What's interesting, so I'm a believer, guys. I'm not forcing on anybody. The Bible says that your gifts to make room for you. That's right. So when I got an insurance in 2018, I didn't know who my ideal client was. Like, I was just clueless, and I just didn't know. But I like, you hear people say stuff like this all the time. If you can't explain to a kid, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
So when I got licensed, instead of going to talk to adults, guys, the first thing I did was I started volunteering at schools, and I was volunteering at elementary schools and middle schools. And I was explaining personal finance to them and insurance. So I would bring like piggy banks and toy dollars and talk about bartering and trading and selling. And in that moment, did I have a clue that skill set was going to help me transform my social media or the way I communicate? I had no clue. It's just a thing I knew, and I knew if I could explain it to a 7-year-old and they walk away and be like, I got that. Because there were times when parents would be like, who did y'all invite to the school today? My kids talking about insurance, and they ain't never said nothing like that. That was the light bulb moment for me. Like, man, I might know something here, or I may have a way of explaining it in a way that captures people. And so I used to do that years ago. In the beginning of this year, in March of 2023, when Silicon Valley Bank crashed, the guy I do my videos with, he's from Angola. So he was kind of like, what does that even mean? How does a bank crash, this and that? And I was explaining it to him, and I explained it to him in 60 seconds. I was like, basically, this is how it happened. Boom, 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 this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he said, bro, we got to capture that.
You got
and I was like,
right?
I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, that was good. Write it down. So we kind of wrote it down. And he was like, yeah, we need to do a video on how banks have failed in 60 seconds. And so if you look at my videos, you'll see I use random props like coffee lids and toys. In that moment, that's all we had. Yes. And so he was like, we got to tell this story. We got to illustrate it. And I said, okay, we can do it. How about we do it next time we shoot? I was like, I'll go to Amazon and I'll buy some stuff and I'll make sure I get a suit. He's like, no, we got to do it right now. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So we just shot it in 60 seconds. It took us like 3 or 4 takes. Like, my videos before that were always terrible. Take me forever. We did like 2 or 3 takes. And when we finished it, as soon as we got done, he sat there, edited it. So normally I send it to him a week later, he puts it out. It's like, no, I need to edit this right now. He sat down, edited. He said, I'm couldn't hit send. I was just like, okay, whatever. You know videos, I don't. And at that time, guys, I just started TikTok, so I had 200 followers, and I had like 3,000 on Instagram. And by that weekend on TikTok, I had like 50 grand, 50,000. And then Instagram kind of went up to like 6 or 7, 8. And so it was completely random. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was. It's how I communicate with people on a regular basis. But I just didn't know it was that important until we shot the video and people said, I kind of like that. And so what we realized is that people want the information. They don't want to be inundated. They want the basics. And eventually we're gonna start doing YouTube. We'll go longer in depth on the stuff. But they just want the understand it. And so now the hook for us is X thing in 60 seconds, and trying to get it in 60 seconds is hard. That's the hardest part. But it gives people enough information to say, oh, I never thought about it. I've never seen it that way.
Yeah. You know what? And I'll tell you another piece that's so powerful about that, because I mean, look, the coffee tops. I mean, it's like, bah, bah, bah. And I saw the bank one too. He's like, bah. He's like, hey, you loan this one, this one, this one.
Yeah, yeah.
So make sure y'all check Chris out, and we're gonna get all his social media like on the video and stuff. But it's Chris Cobb _chosen, right?
Yes, sir. That's it.
At Chris Cobb _chosen, like really, really great information. But here's the other thing that I thought was really powerful about it. I didn't learn about this industry until my early 30s. You know, you learned about this industry in your 20s, but it wasn't something that you grew up with, right? I think even for someone who is in their early 20s, being able to see a subject matter that most people will try to tell you is so complex and you should stay away from it, you should be intimidated by it, especially in our communities, because people always try to push us away from stuff, from knowledge, right? And to be able to take that and say, no, it's not that complicated. It works just like this. Like, how much does it mean to you to make that kind of an impact by simplifying the information in that way?
So that's right now, that's my legacy, honestly. I know that sounds weird, but to be known as a guy who can do that, like I'll wear that hat proudly. I mean, obviously I got other things that I want to do with my life, but that I can die happy knowing that that's what people say about me. Just being honest, because these are the things that matters a lot in people's life. And when you talk to people about being happy or, you know, having the life they want or something's missing, is usually one of these concepts that they thought was so far-fetched and so like huge, and they'd never be able to get it. And to say, here you go in 60 seconds. Now, obviously, this isn't everything. It's not all encompassing. But what it does, it takes people's guards down. It allows them to be curious again. And that's just how I am. Like, if you want to know something, guys, the information is there. And don't let other people keep you from it. Because they're going to try to tell you, oh, if you want to start this drop shipping business, you need help. Like, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of backing. That's always nice. But a lot of times you don't need that. You just need what you have. That's what an entrepreneur does. That's the difference. Like, we just use what we have. And for me, I love it because it just allows me to be more who I am, which is be curious, research things, and then try to get it to its simplest form. So my dad was an engineer too. My mom was a math teacher. So like, I love math. I love numbers. And they always teach you, get it to its simplest form. Break it down. Break it down. So it's, you know, if you got a multiplication division, like breaking into smaller fractions, this and that, till you get it simple. And I just think if people understood that life can work the same way and business work the same way, they'd be much better off. And for me, I was that guy in 2018. Let me get the website. I got the business cards. Let me get some professional photos. I did everything else besides understand the basics. Like, dude, do you got somebody to talk to? Do you have a presentation? If somebody said, I wanted a quote, would you even know how to log in?
You know how to do it, right?
I don't even know my logins. Like, and so what happens is we get so far off into the deep end, not understanding it's the basics that make all of this stuff work. And that's just life. And so that's my overarching hope for the stuff that I do, is one, to break it down, but two, let people know if you just do the basics and you do them time and time again and do more of it, and then you find ways to do it a little bit better, but you don't really get away from the basics that much, you'll be all right. You'll have more than enough information and more than enough skills to kind of like probably succeed and do what you want to do. And so, like I said, if that's my legacy, if that's what people end my last day or the final day, if that's what they say about me, I'll be happy with that. you know, because I think people need that right now, especially in the information age where there's just so much that people are consuming. Like, they need somebody to say, hey, cut the crap, boom, boom, boom. Now dig deeper in the sections, but like, don't go past this until you understand this first.
Boom. ABC elementary. Like, let me
Yeah.
hit you with it's actually it's the basics, but it's not really the basics. Like, hey, let me tell you this concept, but let me just put it in a way that's going to be let me put it in big letters.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Never heard of it.
Put it in big letters for you. So tell me now, you know, as you continue on, like, what keeps you motivated on a day-to-day in the industry?
So we are, so the whole content creation thing is new to me. So before I started shooting content November-ish of last year, so about a year, and it was very inconsistent. And so, like I said, my first big video was March. So that's very new to me. So figuring out how many other things that I can explain that can change somebody's life. Right now I got a list of 150 topics that I need to cover. So I got work to do.
Well, there you go, right?
I know, right? I got work to do. And also starting to subsect some of these ideas. So like taxes, people ask me questions about taxes all the time. So it's like, okay, what are taxes? A lot of people don't realize that, hey, the reason you pay taxes is because the government doesn't have a product and they need a way to make money.
Yep.
But you'd be surprised at how many people don't know that. Then you go into taxes, like, okay, what's a tax write-off? Tax write-off is basically the government giving you a coupon and say, hey, it's a book of things that you can get rebates for. Choose one. And, you know, and start going into that. Okay, you're a business owner. What can I get one for? Well, you realize if you buy a laptop every single year, did you realize if you had an LLC or a business set up and you made a couple of dollars a year, now you can buy the same laptop that you usually going to buy for leisure, you can write it off. So like my next thing is like trying to like figure out all these avenues and how to put this stuff together so people can start taking advantage of it, making money. And second thing is we really just getting started. Like, man, I'm learning so much about insurance. I'm still learning so much about annuities. Like, I'm a novice. And to hear people see and say the things they say, like, hey, I learned this and I'm getting it. And now we're having agents who are coming on board who are, you know, sharing their concepts. That drives me. And my wife, I mean, she's not on the call, but she's very into tech. So she's building the CRM system. So now she has intellectual property. We have tech that goes along with it. It's allowing us to be efficient, webinars, all that type of stuff. So to see that it's more than just a side hustle and to create it into like a legitimate business that in 5, 10, 15 years that people will know the brand, they'll know Chosen Agency and they'll associate it with something. I guess that's the thing that's driving me. And like it's scary at times, to be honest with you.
Dope, man. Like, it's like wow, it's like, man, all of this because you got a license. You know, I'm just throwing
that's it. That's it.
You got a license, you know.
What's funny is people ask me about like the real estate and stuff, and I tell them, I say, I'm a life insurance agent. Like, I know the basics and I'll give you the basics, but you gotta go somewhere else with that. Like, and I wear that proudly. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll do other stuff at some point, but this is $1 trillion industry. There's a great chance I won't penetrate the whole industry. So I may just stay here. Because there's so much to get.
Listen, and it's one that people need to know about. So as we round out, I got a couple more questions for you. The first being, how do you feel like your life is different before you were licensed, after you were licensed? Basically, how is getting the license, how has joining the industry changed you and evolved you? Or even done for you?
Yeah, I can do all of that. So my mindset, I would say now is, before it was more, it wasn't scarcity, but it was just like I always had this feeling like you're going to be somebody, you're going to do something great, you're going to have a business, but I never had the vehicle. So everything that I was doing at that point in my life I was testing stuff. So I would, like a print on demand t-shirt. I'm thinking about social media marketing agency. So it's a lot of constant testing. And it wasn't an insecurity like I ever doubted that I would ever make it. It was just more of like, what is the thing? Now, since I had the license and had some success, it's how far can I take the thing? And so that's the difference. Because I really feel like I don't have a ceiling right now, and maybe one day it'll change. But right now, I really don't think there's a ceiling. Before then, it was like, okay, you like to work, you want to do well, but I just always felt capped. It was to the point that when I was at Travelers and I want to make more money, it's like, okay, I'm taking a $1,000 GMAT course, 8-12 weeks. Okay, going back to school to get an MBA, another 20, 30,000. All right, how much more is that gonna make me a year? 40 grand. Like looking at, because you know, all the companies that have the pay bands.
Right.
So you literally look at the pay band, you're like, even when I get
Even
as
when I
good
do
as I
that,
can,
I'm still
this is
under.
where I'm at. Yeah. And so before that, I just, it was okay because the money that I wanted to make at that time was within the pay bands. When I start thinking bigger, it's like, they ain't got no band that well, I ain't gonna say that because a lot of those CEOs of those companies make good money. But I was like, the likelihood of me doing that there or waiting the 20, 30 years to get to that point,
That's it.
I like it, you know. So the mindset now is just freedom, and it's just like however much you want to make, however much impact you want to have, you got it.
You got
And
it.
as far as my lifestyle, it's it's just so much better because I integrated with what I do. I work virtually, so I'm usually in Houston in my office anyway, just because I like it. But there was a time where, you know, I was going to the office every single day. If you want to go somewhere, you gotta take off or you gotta ask for permission. Now, when I want to go to the dentist, I just do it. Like I just work it in my day. If I want to travel back home, I can go home for a week, still be just as productive, be just as successful, and not miss a beat. And so for me, that is what I was solving for was lifestyle. Money, of course, yeah, you need money for the lifestyle, but it was more like how can I live the way I want to live and do the things I want to do, and it not slow up the business or slow up the way I'm making money. And so that's what I'm solving for right now. That's probably what I'll be solving for forever. I mean, there's a dollar amount attached to it, but if I'm living a quality of life, I'm not stressed too much. Seeing the people I love, I'm gonna enjoy my Georgia Bulldogs on some Saturdays.
Right.
That's all I need, you know. And like I said, we'll see how far we take it. But I'm enjoying the fact that I can do those things and still run my company. And it just, I don't feel beat up like I have in the past. I don't feel worn out. I don't feel tired. I feel like enthused almost every day that I get up. So that's it for me.
You're limitless at this point, you know. Let me. So I asked you about, you know, your dream, you know, when you were a child. What's the dream now? Like, what's the big vision now?
The big vision is, so right now is growing the chosen agency to 1,000 agents licensed.
Okay.
And I don't even know if that's the big vision because
that's just the next.
It's the next. It's like the next 3 to 5 year vision. And from there, I don't know. Because right now we're creating an online platform where we're doing all the training and it's all in-house and it's just making sure these people got a chance to learn and win in the industry. I think the big vision for me would be figuring out a way to package the intellectual property of the education, especially when it comes to finances. And I don't know if it's a school, if it's an academy, if it's an online thing, but just trying to figure out how to create the infrastructure where this information is mainly given to people so they have a chance to take it and change their life. Because like I said, I talk about 90% of the stuff I talk about is not insurance.
Yeah.
So I'm not making money off it. I'm not even trying to. I want people to get the right resources and information. And obviously you're gonna have to do your own research and you're gonna have to hustle, you're gonna have to sweat. But I think the big thing is like creating that type of infrastructure from some type of curriculum online or in person or whatever. It's like an entrepreneur university. And again, it won't be all encompassing, but it'll give people resources to get started and mindset to get started. And I think that's the thing that's almost bigger than insurance for me right now. Mainly.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So let's say somebody's listening to this conversation, either listening to it, you know, streaming or they're watching it on YouTube. They're thinking about, you know, joining the industry. Maybe someone approached them. Maybe they're just starting in the business, you know, maybe they're struggling. Like what kind of words or insights would you have for them at this point?
You won't lose if you don't quit. That's the one thing. If you never quit, you won't lose, guys. That's just point blank period. That was my mindset. I wasn't quitting, wasn't letting my license go for no reasons. So make sure that you understand it and be willing to do what's required of you too as well. So entrepreneurship is glamorous, it's amazing, but the Bible says to whom much is given, much is required. So if you want it, understand there's a requirement to get it and be willing to pay the price. And if you're not willing, it's cool too. Like it is what it is, guys. Don't be mad. Like if you want a comfy life and you want to be comfortable and you don't want to go through the struggle, by all means, don't do it. But for those of you who saying, hey, I don't mind 2 or 3 years of struggling just to get it, just don't quit. Be a student, like learn what you're doing, learn what you're talking about, and always have the posture of someone who's looking to help. Because even now, to this day, I am not the greatest salesperson. If you hit me with a couple objections, I know the answers, but I'm not the greatest when it comes to dancing, doing a tango.
Right.
But my success have come from me being willing to help people and give information and go over and beyond on that end. Yeah, and what happens is when you build those relationships and you get that reputation, people trust you. And this business is all about trust. So yeah, don't quit, do what's required, and lead with integrity. That's it. Like, just be willing to help.
That's it. No, great, man. Great advice. Great advice. So, Chris, as we get ready to round it up, man, if someone wants to get in contact with you, we want you to get to that 1,000, that first milestone at the chosen nation.
Yeah.
How do folks reach out to you? How do they get in contact with you?
So, obviously, social medias, Instagram, TikTok, it is Chris traditional spelling, CHRIS. Cobb, COBB, like corn on the cob, Chris Cobb _chosen. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. Facebook is Chris Blake Cobb. So there's too many Chris Cobbs. So I have to throw in the middle name, Chris Blake Cobb, if you want to find me there. But maybe years down the road, I may have to change this, but I'll give my personal cell phone number, 706-436-6354. I may have to, it might be a bad idea 5 years from down the road, but right now that's my number, 706-436-6354. And I'm very active on social media. It may take me a day or two to get to you, but I'm checking it on the daily. So if you reach out to me there, I would love to oblige, give you information, give you resources. Text me first before call. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And you'll find my wife all over my platform too. She's very active online. So if you can't get me, reach out to her, whatever you got to do. But yeah, we're looking to grow. We're looking to expand. But most importantly, we're actually looking to collaborate and just grow the industry, because there's a lot of people who need what we're offering. So absolutely. I just want to be of service.
Bro, listen, thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing the insights, the wisdom, the knowledge, your expertise, your story, your experiences, and your vision. And man, I wish you all of that and more. And it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen, because what you're doing now is just phenomenal. And for those who are listening to this conversation, maybe you find yourself, being chosen. Maybe you find yourself in that moment to say, hey, you know what? I've seen this content. I've been wondering about it, and perhaps you should get a license. Until the next time, take care.